right, so welcome everyone. Today we have Mr. Eng Chin, and a little bit about him. Very special because he's my principal last time. So he was a teacher in ACS Secondary School for 9 years, principal in ACS Barker 14 years, principal in ACS International Jakarta 13 years. He's now an adjunct teacher, always teaching, right? And he also won a Public Administration Medal, bronze. So welcome, Mr. Eng Chin.
Hi, nice to be here.
You have, I do remember when I was in ACS Barker and all that, when you started it and all that, you were one of the most profound people who have impacted my life in a way that you saw the uniqueness in people, and I think I caught that fire and I carried on using that fire in the uniqueness. What I'm very curious about in things that I'm doing right now is how people are extremely not passionate in their job. But it is a total flip, because that's what I see in you, that you are extremely passionate in what you do. When I think back my life in school, so there were teachers that were not passionate and there were teachers that were super passionate. So I wanted to find out from you, from earliest memory that you have, like, did you know teaching was from you since primary school, or what happened?
I don't think at primary level all of us would be able to realize what we want. We may desire for a certain occupation or line that you want to go into, but only when you're later on, when you start discovering for yourself, what you're strong in, that then you find maybe a purpose as well as meaning in what you want to do, and then you go into it. Right? For example, I mean, like anybody, in those days when we have TV and all the things are movies and you see, and I wanted to become a policeman, because that itself, like catching thieves, was quite exciting, and you want to become a policeman. But as you grow older and when you come, I think my turning point was when I was in junior college or pre-university days. And that's when I started to discover that I have a talent or gift in teaching. Because I was leading my own class group, a small group. I mean, I was relatively good in mathematics. So they all say, why don't you be the one helping us and teaching us, So I said, okay, fine, let's do a study group. And we go to a friend's place and we sort of camped there for about 3-4 hours or even longer than that.
Right.
Yeah. And we started doing mathematics. And obviously, being good in mathematics, I was able to solve things fast. And yet when I'm able to solve things, I have to ask myself, now how do I convey those processes to my friends?
Yeah.
And that's the key part. In any teaching, anybody who loves teaching, you must be able to bring it down to the level of the learner. Right? If you're not able to bring it down to the level of the learner and you say, I just a flash in my mind and suddenly things get solved, it doesn't happen like this. That's not how it doesn't happen like this. It has to be some systematic thought in your mind that you want to try this method or try this out. And then subsequently you discover, this is the way, and a much easier way. So even in mathematics, you can discover that, these are the things that you do. Even for people who are very brilliant in mathematics who can solve problems fast, they need to convey how is it done to another person. Right? And so I discovered that, I naturally had that gift and was able to convey it to my friends. I said, let's begin with this, and then let's think about this, and then let's think about that, and then slowly we are able to solve the problem. And so I thought, okay, teaching was my line to go into. I was actually in pre-university in a class of engineers. When I say engineers, because these students, I happen to be in this class because they all take double maths,
right.
And physics and chemistry, or physics and econs or whatever. I mean, I love mathematics since Sec 4 days. And so after Sec 4, I thought, okay, the easiest way now is to do double maths. None of the humanities subject, because that takes a lot of learning, or even the science subject, sometimes it takes a long time because of the experiments as well. Yeah. So I told myself, okay, I'll do just a double maths, physics, and with econs, not even chemistry. I thought, okay, econs would be something to give me the balance between the arts and the sciences.
Right.
So that's how I then progressed into. And one day there was a teacher of mine who went into the class and said, how many of you want to be teacher? Okay, so that was the question.
This is what, pre-you?
Yeah, pre-you. And one lone hand came out. And everybody in class laughed, because everybody said, hey, you must be mad, right? This is an engineering class, and everybody, all us, aspire to get a degree or go through a degree course in university in engineering. But here, one lone hand put up, Another aspect was another teacher of mine, which impacted me quite a bit also, was my form teacher. And he says, never come into teaching. from what he has gone through, he said, no, never come into teaching. You won't be rich being a teacher. Yeah, you won't be rich being a teacher. That's a fact, But it's whether things impact you and whether things have a purpose and meaning in your life. And I think that's important. In anyone going into a passion or the job or whatever, what does the job holds for you? How does it impact you? Right? That gives you meaning in what you do. If you find that, you're in for that job. Yeah.
Right. So curious. Before you said in secondary school, you already knew you had a talent for math.
Yes.
Primary school?
No. It's only,
What happened?
only Sec 4 is that primary school. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's just too young to you try to do everything well.
Yes.
So only in secondary where things become more specialized, a little bit harder, and then you start to realize, things solve easily for maths for me. For others it may be a struggle. Right? I mean, elementary mathematics at lower level everybody can solve, but then after they cross primary 6 and go into Sec 1, Sec 2, and then Sec 3, then they discover, it's not that easy as after all. So that's what happened to me. I think, well, not that I love maths in primary school already. I may have the inclination there. I may do relatively okay, but it's only in come to Sec 3, Sec 4, and then Pre 1, Pre 2 that I discover, wow, I really love to do maths. Yeah.
Right. Curious to know, what about math that excites you so much? Because to me, totally different. I prefer humans. I prefer biology because I understand it.
Yeah.
For math, the struggle for me was the practicality in real life next time. So I why do I study DY/DX? Why do I study A maths, E maths and all that? What fascination for math did you have in that secondary to pre-U?
Okay, I think for mathematics, there's this challenge, all right? Always, every time when you want to solve a problem, you want to be, one of the earliest to find a solution for it. Okay, so there's that challenge. The second thing is, of course, maths trains the mind. Okay, it gives you the logical thinking. Because after you go into difficult problems, then you realize there's some logic in the approach. All right, that why you approach it in this way, and why systematically you move from one level to the next or one step to the next. So that itself is actually a good training for the mind. Right? Even in teaching now, I always tell my kids is that don't copy the answer. All right, or don't copy the solution because you do not know my thought processes. Let me relate it out, or let me say it out to you, so that then you can think through together at the same time as me. Right? Then you will gain much. Because if you just look at the solution, it doesn't help you. Right? Ultimately, the question may change slightly, but you need to have the same thought processes to begin with, right? And to approach the problem, and then you'll find a solution. Yeah.
So two things. One is the challenge of solving it fast.
Yes, of course.
And the second one would be there's something about the systematic approach of solving something that piques your interest.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So when you started teaching your friends, the class and all that, how big was it?
Oh, it was a group of about 6 or 7 of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of validation? Because usually when we try to do strengths and all that, we try to do something. We need either a validation that, actually I'm good in it, or somebody tells you that you're good in that.
Yeah.
What validation do you get?
I guess in able to guide my fellow classmates, right, to improve in their maths and to be able to solve problems. All right, I think that's the satisfaction I get. Yeah. Knowing that, well, we all face the same problem. Okay. When we first started, okay, let's try this sum. Okay, all of us try. And then when I got the solution, and I then started to share with them how the thought processes. I think then, of course, they're also happy and they're excited, and they recognize that, Eng Chin is always very good at maths. He'll be able to solve it. And he'll be able to help us. And so that comes the satisfaction part.
Right.
When you teach someone and you realize, well, there's positive feedback. Not that you teach someone and then there's negative feedback and it goes worse, but there's positive feedback and everybody learns and everybody improves, and then that's where you reinforces your own inner self that that is your gift in a sense. Yeah.
Right. So did they score better for math because of it?
They did well. I wouldn't say they scored better. I think we're all in the same class, and my fellow classmate may get an A also, same as me for getting an A or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. So at that point of time when you were teaching them, you started to realize that you wanted to be a teacher.
Yes, correct.
Right. Why not be a professor in math? Because that's also that's also a journey that you could have taken. That means I want to study more in math, and I want to be a PhD in math and just carry on and maybe in a university and all that. Did I consider?
I didn't. It didn't came across me because basically when after pre-university and I went into national service, I took up a teaching bursary. All right. So right from the start, I wanted to be a teacher, not so much as I want to be a professor. Then I would have taken something different. Yeah. So because I wanted to have being a teacher, so I took up the teaching bursary. So that's where even in university days, I did my basic course for maths first, a university degree in maths, and then after that I go to teaching qualification. Yes, correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So before the teaching bursary, you actually already knew that that's it.
Yeah.
This is set for me.
Yeah, that's set for me. Although it doesn't make me rich, let me say that.
But the bursary is, it helps out. The bursary helps out with university and all that.
Correct.
A long time ago, sometimes it's difficult.
Yeah.
So even my father also tried to get scholarship. Everybody tried to get scholarship at that point of time. So after you finish NIE,
yes,
you went into teaching.
Yes.
Right. And when you were teaching, was there any confirmation that, because some teachers I know that they stop after a few years and then they go on to somewhere else.
Yeah.
What confirmation or validation do you
Okay, I want to say that teaching is not just the subject matter per se.
Yeah.
Because I was also helping out in my university days, believe it or not. I was roped in to help out in my National Police Cadet Corps, right? And we were excited because Prof. Chia, who was then a lecturer in the university, right? So he was the chairman of the NPCC Council, and he thought of starting a unit, right, in the university for National Police Cadet Corps, right? These are called station inspectors. These are called, who will then go down to the schools to serve.
Yeah.
So actually, during university days, and even when I was doing my course, and even during the exams,
you went back?
Yeah, I went back to the school to help out.
And before that, there was before Prof. Shah and all that, there was the need.
Before that, no. Because after you finish your pre-university, that's about it.
All right.
And that's end of the UIO days, yeah?
UIO is
Uniform Youth Organization.
Yeah.
And so you go proceed on to your next stage, tertiary education, whether polytechnic or universities or whatever, yeah? And there wouldn't be that kind of ties back to the cadet corps kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, but this was an extension, which to me was good because I love the cadet corps. So I thought, I've been very involved in the cadet corps in my school days.
Right.
So I thought, that's good. I can still serve, but now at least, at a higher rank, and therefore I come back to the school, right, to serve and to look after the kids. Yeah.
Right. Was there any correlation about going back to school and teaching these are secondary school, right?
Yes.
Yeah, these young secondary school people that has something to do with teaching as well?
Yes, it does, because like I said, teaching is not just only about the academic matters. Yeah. I mean, even if we reflect upon our school days, the people who impacted us are not just, they may be good teachers in the subject, but more so they are people who are of influence. In other words, they impacted us because we believe, there's something in them. We believe, they have encouraged us. We believe in them, and we pursue, ahead in life. And this is what, when I look at myself, and even when I proceed on the career for teaching, is how much can I impact their lives under my charge? I think that is the key part. I always ask myself, can I help them to be better persons? And so if I think that, this is my passion, my call, then I will pursue it. Yeah. So that's how, it came about. So like I said, even though I may be good in maths, but I will just go to NIE to just get the skills to be able to teach or to impart, right? But further than that, it goes beyond just imparting knowledge. Yeah.
If you were to share with me when it comes to teaching, there is one part where it's about grades, but there are layers because we are human beings, and there are many layers that a teacher needs to could potentially impact us. Basic would just be score well, you get an A and all that, and those are actually not the best teachers out there. Right? Those are the ones that, you score well, can already. If you were to layer it, and for me, what would you say that other responsibilities of a teacher are, besides just academic? What other layers would you have in your mind?
Other layers I would think that, basically to be able to share your life with the kid or with the people under your charge, right? Because they look up to you as a role model. Yeah, that's the key part. I mean, not so much as role model as, a teacher who can solve my maths problem. But a teacher who is an elderly person, elder than me, right? And who is able to impart certain values of life to me, all right? And I look up to that person because, well, it's somebody whom I think that I want to be.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I have, even in my school days, teachers I look up to.
Yeah.
Right? That impacted me. I thought, the fellas speak sense, makes an impact on how I think and how I reflect about life. Yeah. I think that's the key part of it.
Right. Yeah. So one more layer on top is actually that being that role model, being that that light for values that would probably impact their life in a positive way.
Yes.
Personally, for you, were there teachers that you kind of wanted to emulate, that you were like, hey, actually, or what did they do? Those teachers that you had is like, actually, this is the kind of teacher I want to be.
Not exactly that, you want to be exactly that person. I think each one of us have our own style of how to reach out. I mean, I know my maths teachers in the JC days would talk a lot of things other than maths. Okay, let me say this. Of course, he goes to class and he'll just teach you, these are the principles to solve an equation. If you have so many unknowns, you must have so many equations, full stop. Okay, that's the basics of mathematics, which is true. Right, but then the other half day of the time you talk about, Japan, how successful it has been. So it opens your eyes to other things in life, because he will like compare in those days in the 1970s, 80s, Japanese were the top of the end. We all look up to the Japanese for good products and everything.
Yes.
So he'll speak about how the people are so disciplined and how they manage to rise up as a country, etc.
Right.
So these are things that, well, if you ask me, do I want to speak about that most of the time when I'm teaching? Not exactly. Yes, I may refer certain times, certain moments, choose certain times and opportunities where I can share certain things. Yes, by all means. But, well, still come back to the fundamental. You're still a good teacher or teacher that has to impart certain things about the subject. So you carry on with the lessons as such. Yeah.
Right. So one aspect is just opening the eyes of the students, not just confined to the topic that you're talking about or the discipline that you're teaching.
Yes.
But it's to how do I open my eyes? And for you, opening the eyes of the students would be the values that you can impart for them.
Correct.
Okay. I also understand that in Ministry of Education, you can choose that you can forever be a teacher. That means continue teaching all the way, senior teacher. They call that the teaching route.
Yeah, teaching track. Yeah.
Teaching track. Then there's another track where people would choose that, hey, maybe I want to lead other teachers, and they call it the management track.
Yes, correct.
Were you given that option to choose for you?
I have never thought of in the leadership track, frankly speaking. Yeah?
Okay.
Because basically, when I first started teaching, I was thinking, my ambition wasn't, I want to head a school at the end of the day. I want to be a good teacher.
Right.
Yeah. And if opportunities arise where they put me into leadership, well, by all means, go into it and challenge yourself and see whether you discover that's what you want.
Yeah.
Right. So even in terms of this leadership from teacher rising up to a principal, I mean, I went through the ranks. Okay. I was a young teacher, but because I went back to my own school, so obviously it was a bit easier to handle. Because I grew up as a student in that school. So obviously, all the tricks of the students, everything about the students, why they think this way, why they behave in this way. So easier for you to make the rapport and easier for you to, establish yourself.
You're from that tribe, but
correct. Yeah. So it didn't take me very long before they threw me into the deep end. They say, okay, now, why don't you take charge of discipline? Okay. So I became a discipline master. Right, a young discipline master, because there are other discipline masters in the school. So I learned the ropes a bit, and then I became a prefect master. Right? So from discipline, I became a prefect master. And then after that, well, they said, well, since you're good in maths, why don't you head a department? So I became a head of department for mathematics. Right. So that was where...
For all these times, was there already a path you needed to choose, or they kind of left it open all the way?
They left it open all the way,
right.
And when there's a need for a head to be appointed, they'll ask you, would you want to take this up?
Okay.
So from discipline master, I thought, okay, fine, that's doing a job. Then prefect master, well, it's quite related.
Okay.
Prefects are the one who carry out the discipline. So, okay, so that's a natural...
the message.
The message. Then after that, message only. Of course, I love teaching mathematics.
Yeah.
All right, and I would like to impart that also to my teachers, in the way and approach how they do the teaching of mathematics. So I thought, okay, let's be a maths HOD, no problem. I can take up that job. So it's not something that I aspire to become. Yeah, that you look out for, and when the door is open, you start be the first one to put up your hand. No, I'm not the type. All right, I'm not the type to say put up my hand.
Right.
Even after that, as a HOD, okay, I was comfortable teaching in that school. And then suddenly an opportunity came, and I got a phone call from then the bishop, and he says, Eng Chin, we're going to start off another school in the same family. Would you like to head that school? All right. So I thought, yeah, why not? Because if you understand the situation in ACS, it was like, well, ACS became independent, and therefore there were many students who were previously in the school.
Because there were two primary schools.
Yeah, the two primary schools feeding
to only one
secondary school.
Yeah.
And of course, the standards get higher because basically, as you have a cutoff, then obviously you exclude other people or the same family members from coming in.
Yeah.
Right. So when I first started teaching, it was like from A class all the way to M class. Okay, so you can imagine the range was so wide. And I always feel that, well, those people who are quite disadvantaged, who are not so strong in their studies, they no doubt are challenging in teaching them. But there's also great satisfaction, right? Because to reach out to them and to be able to have that rapport and be able to reach out to them and to be able to change their lives, I see changes in them. I think that itself is a satisfying moment. Yeah. So suddenly when you're cut off from A to M class and you suddenly only take in A to E class, then what happens to all the F to M onwards? Yeah. So that's when I said, okay, fine. If they want me to start off a school, catering for the F to the M class, I say, why not? Yeah, let's do that. Right? I mean, I know it's challenging. It's not going to be easy because there's always the comparison between this school and that school, right? And how do you turn around a school that is already there, or people think that they're already there? How to turn it around? So that's something, a challenge for me again. So I thought, okay, let's go in and do the job there. Yeah.
Was there any kind of mathematical? It's almost like this is a challenge, and I have certain steps I will take to make sure that this group of students would not feel that way.
Okay, there's no mathematics because when you talk about relationships, there isn't a formula for relationships, right?
Which is the most challenging.
Yeah, which is the most challenging thing. I mean, because even if you try it out on one group or one person or whatever, it may not be the same for the other person.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work that way, right? So anything about relationship is on the ground, having to be able to empathize, able to understand from their point of view, and then move forward from there, how to help them to see another avenue, another opening or whatever it is. So I would say that, there's no, it came into my mind about being disadvantaged, no doubt about that. But then how do you turn the disadvantage so that they don't keep on harboring about the disadvantage and not see the light out there, right? So this is what I thought, let's try and convince them that, well, there's still value, right? And how do they look at what they have and value themselves and then move on in life. So this is what I thought, we turned the school around in that way. Right.
So I remember that I was the second batch under your leadership, right? We moved over from primary school. I was second batch and I was in the last class of Express 206. So I could definitely, I think the cutoff for ACSI was 235.
Yes.
Right. So if I didn't have Barker, I would be somewhere else.
Yes, correct.
Definitely somewhere else that is, and a very different experience.
Yeah, different experience.
It's not whether or not, it's not just the family, it's just that I've been kind of like, because of grades, I've been kicked out of my tribe. And that's it. So I was very appreciative and of the chances that was given in ACS Barker. And one interesting thing that, even when I talk to all my Barker friends, that you never made us feel that we were inferior. You always, even on chapel mornings and all, you do beat that drum that, yes, you are unique, you are special, you are late bloomers, you are everything that is positive on that slant. Where did that come from for you? Because it doesn't come naturally to people.
Well, I mean, if you look at ACS, when I was a student, I mean, we were all sorts, I mean, we have friends who are super rich, we have friends who are also, average, and so forth. And even you look at even ability, right? So there are the A-class fellas who will be your doctors and lawyers and whatever. But there's also the other end of fellas who are entrepreneurs, business, eventually rise up to be good in business, etc.
Yeah.
So you learn to appreciate the diversity, and that's the key part. In ACS, there's the whole diverse.
Yeah.
All right. So when you look at that, then you realize, actually everybody is to find their own niche and be successful in that.
Yeah.
And even for my own class, even the whole bunch of us who are engineers, not everyone became engineers.
Yeah.
Right. Some went on to a different field, but they were all successful in their own rights. Right. So to me is that there's a whole diversity. So it doesn't mean that, well, you may be slower and you may not have been in the other school, but you end up here, well, you're condemned and not necessary, right? So you learn to value people and you learn to give them hope.
Right.
And I think that's the key part, is how to give them hope so that they can build their own self-confidence and then they move on in life, right? So that's what I've always looked at and say, let's give them hope, right? As you can see, when I was a principal in the school there, I have always shared about hope.
Yes.
Yeah, that things will be better.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you just need to have the fundamentals right. Yeah. Hard work, etc. These things must be there. But if you don't, you just do hope, but without doing what are the ingredients that will steer you towards that, then that's lost totally.
It's like wishful thinking.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. So then you became, so when you are a principal, being a principal from a HUD of a full school, you weren't even the principal of just a secondary school, you're principal of the primary school.
Yeah.
The skill sets, everything is different.
Yes.
From a HOD of math.
Yeah.
What made you feel that, I think I got this?
I think it was just a very gung-ho spirit. I must say, on reflection, as you gain experience, as you age and as you reflect upon your early days, then you realize that, wow, really, as you rightfully say, what is it that you think that I have everything and to do the job. Actually, I don't have everything. At that point in time, I must say I was one of the youngest principal around, and I didn't go through super courses that will equip me totally. But I gained my experience on the ground most of the time. Even if I reflect upon my life now, if I look back, there are different stages. Right? So when I first started Barker Road or ACS Barker Road at that point in time, I realized that my passion was there, all right, to reach out to the kids. And I devoted a lot of my time to the kids. Okay. I may not have used my teachers that much, although I may not have impacted my teachers that much.
Right.
Okay. But it's interesting, when I went on to the second phase of my life, I realized that I seem to be impacting my teachers more. Right?
The second phase would be after Barker.
Yes, after Barker.
That means International Jakarta.
Yeah, Jakarta. Yeah.
So it's kind of like your focus was changed.
Yes, was changed. It's quite interesting because could I have done better if I've done it through my teachers? Perhaps so. It's not that I don't impact, because I was trying to impact everybody. In Barker.
But
because
time is
time is not, you can't devote to everything. So yes, in generally, when you do briefing, when you talk to everyone, you hope to impact everyone, staff and students. But I spend more time with students because I felt that is something that they needed at that point in time. I didn't spend that much time with my staff to say, do a good job, please. Look after this aspect of the students, etc., etc. But I went directly to the students. I went to talk to them, to speak to them, and rally them. Most of the time. But on the second phase, when I went on to ACS International Jakarta, it's quite interesting that my vice principals were the one who actually ran the show for me, and so I had more time. So I thought, more time means, well, let's impact the teachers, because the teachers are the key part of it.
Right.
So it comes also with wisdom. As you grow older and you find, perhaps maybe if you were the early days, you're more gung-ho to do everything on the ground. Every job is your job. But when you gain the experience, you feel that, well, the key people are the teachers who will drive the school for you.
I do remember that you were very hands-on, and a lot of times in the morning assembly, you were talking. Right. And different parts like you. I remember one time that you showed us how the tie was not to be worn, and I think you took it out and then you looked very unkempt. And then you just tuck out your shirt and all that, and you're like, this is not the way that you behave as a gentleman and things like that. So it's almost like you were playing, it sounds like from reflection, you were playing the role of a teacher. Right? That you wanted to be on the ground. And I remember that even before Sec 4, AMATs, exams,
Yeah.
O levels, you would come into different classes,
Yes.
and as a principal, devote time to have a master class for A maths. Whereas like after 2 hours, we're like, how come our teacher didn't really share that? It's just like, why? Like, so straight away we were like, oh, we get it. Yeah. So it's why do you think was it because that you felt that it was this group of students really needed that attention from you, and that's why you devoted your time, and then after you moved on to Jakarta, ACS International is different?
Yeah. It's different in the sense that, well, yeah, this group of students needed all the help they needed,
Yeah.
right? I mean, as a principal, I can't just sit back and say, okay, I leave it to my teachers, wherever possible, if I can strengthen, my students, because I have the knowledge of it, I have the skill of it, why not? Yeah. So that's why I do go down to the ground in those early days. Well, if it's fighting fire or whatever it is, in order to impact lives and to make them, ready for exams or whatever. So that explains why I go onto the ground. Yeah,
Right.
because these are students. Well, it's your first batch going, or for second batch or whatever batch, and you feel that, well, you need to set the lead on in that way. So that's what I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but in the other school, it's like things have been quite stabilized, and you can be relaxed a little bit and look at your teachers more.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm curious about passion, and when it comes to passion, I do have 3 different areas of passion where it makes up passion. So the first one is interest in the topic or interest in the whole discipline of teaching. Second one is strengths. That means what comes naturally to you. And the third one is values, right? You were interested in math. What about being a principal that you were so interested in and intrigued by?
Actually, I wasn't, like I said, it was not a path that I chose, consciously in a sense, because when I first started teaching, I said, well, I want to be a good teacher. Well, that's good enough. I didn't choose a leadership track. But when I was thrown into leadership, because leadership impacts a lot more people than just the people in your classes that you teach, and that's it, then you begin to understand that, well, can you be an impactful person for many others? Right. So,
so that was your interest.
That was
influencing people. As much as possible.
As much possible.
And whatever my position is, how can I influence as many people as possible?
That's right. Yeah, it's not so much that, well, it's a status conscious that I want to reach out to, to the level that I reach for myself, and to be able to have that self-actualization, and nothing of that sort. Yeah, my self-actualization comes from the satisfaction that I receive, that my work has been recognized in the sense that, well, they make impactful lives for themselves, the kids. So this is something which I thought, this is something that after 20, 30 years of education, and then kids come up to you and say, thank you very much, because you make an impact. That's great satisfaction.
Yes.
No dollar and cents.
Priceless.
Yeah, priceless. You can't measure by dollar and cents, that kind of thing. So this is what I felt, that I want to do. Yeah.
To lead a school, compared to lead math HOD department, different skill sets. I want to hear from you, like, where did you learn these things from? Because can you go for leadership courses? Do you read up? Do you ask other principals to mentor you? What happened that you upskilled yourself?
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, the theoretical way is, of course, equip yourself with skills and so forth. I mean, this is what the world always tells you. Get yourself into this course and that course, and you learn the skills. I think I'm so much a grounds person that I learn a lot of things from experience, your own experience.
Okay.
Not so much from reading, because I have gone through a course for principal, no doubt about that. But my mind has always been, okay, now how do I apply it, right? And when you can't apply it, it's not that, suddenly you come to a situation, they say, okay, this is on page 36 of the textbook. Okay, now we do it this way. It doesn't happen like that, right? It's your own natural personality, okay? How your natural personality flows into what you want to do and how you want to do it, okay? So I would say the skill sets I picked up along the way, even how to reach out to students, how to reach out to adults, especially teachers,
Or even parents.
Yeah, or even parents. It's all different. It's all different. Okay. I mean, back in the early years, yes, it was students and parents I tried to reach out to, okay, to give parents some hope and to give parents, your child is not that bad, like, don't worry. In a few years' time or later on when he will turn around. So I always comfort parents like that, right? Then when I became over in ACS International in Jakarta, yes, I reach out to the parents, right? I reach out also to the teachers. So these are adults. So it's a different way of reaching it out, right? So you learn along the way.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're very much grounds on.
Yeah, I'm very
hands-on.
much concerned. I don't know whether that will work for many people, but some people feel that, well, they must go through this course, that course.
Yeah.
But frankly speaking, ultimately, at the end of the day, it's how you handle the situation.
Yeah.
Right? You may be equipped by, yes, certain skill sets that's needed, but ultimately, what drives you, that's key. So it's interesting you say that, because when I went to the private sector school like ACS International Jakarta,
Yeah.
there are people who say, oh, don't share this with another school because they'll copy you. I've never stopped in that. I haven't stopped to think, oh yeah, they will copy us and then, they'll be better than us. I always feel that, well, it's up to the leader. If the leadership there can steer the school to be better than us, well, that's good for them. All right. But they can't copy me. I do it differently. I may tell you, these are the ingredients needed to be a good school. Yeah. Right. But it's really up to you how you want to translate it out on the ground. Yeah. Right. So to each his own. So you may look at my school and you look at it. Oh, that's how he runs it. Oh, can we do it? Same.
Just copy that, like SOP.
Yeah, you can't. So same thing. When you go to a course, you learn about certain things. Ultimately, you have to decipher what it is and what works for you on the ground. Yeah.
Then how about after that? After the interest and strengths and all that, I want to hear from you. Like, what do you think that you were talented in as a principal? That this was a gifting that the tools felt light. So some people would be things like, any crisis, I'm very calm, right? Or things like, I love influencing people. I love to see their minds change and all that. What was a gift that you felt that you were given or you had? A talent, a natural thing?
Okay. If I reflect about running schools, I mean, after, having to run two institutions, then you started and you gain experience over the time, then you realize that, well, there's certain ingredients needed to have a successful school. Yeah. Okay. And you never reflect that when I first started in Barker. Okay. I mean, it was on the ground fighting fire all the time. You never thought, okay, what are the ingredients needed to do that? So what you can do, you do. So, but as you grow older and as you think about it, as you go into leadership track and as you reflect upon your own leadership, what is needed in a school, you then start to have that theoretical basis for it, whether it's structures and things and so forth that needed to be put in place first, and then how do you equip your teachers? How do you give confidence to your teachers to try out without the fear of failure? Because the schools are run in different ways. Some people put fear in teachers. In other words, they say, oh, you don't do this without my permission. So it becomes a very top-down kind of thing. And you realize that, well, it doesn't work that way, because things will get bottlenecked, because everybody doesn't want to move. Everybody doesn't have the creativeness in them, because why would I want to stick my head out and later on I get smacked down by my principal? So
it's run by fear.
Run by fear. So whereas for my style is different. People have been very comfortable with my style, because sometimes I appoint heads of department. I know they don't know the job, right? Especially in Indonesia, where you're appointing an Indonesian to be a head of department, and they're quite fearful because they fear that, well, if I do something wrong, what will happen to me? All right. So you try to assure people that don't worry, so long as you make a decision. Yes, sometimes we do not know whether that decision will go this way or that way, but you have to make a decision, right? And if things don't work that way, right, and parents complain, whatever, I'll shoulder it for you. Okay, because I want you to know that I'm behind you. Right. I wouldn't say, how come you make this kind of decision
and point the finger back.
And point the finger back. I mean, it's a mistake made by you, fine. But at the end, I will say, let's learn together. So you have to make a decision on the spot, because that was on the ground, right? And whether it's right or wrong, you won't know until later on. Most of the time, right? So you try and back up the person. So these are things that I find that will work for a school.
Right.
So in schools in Indonesia, sometimes it's very top down. Nobody moves until the boss says yes. Right. Nobody is seen to want to have a creative idea, because, well, don't steal the thunder from the boss.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. Whereas for me, when I went to that school, I was a little bit. I understand the culture there, so I said, okay, no, it's not a blame culture. Okay,
Right.
I always say that it's not a blame culture. So I will be there to back you up. You know, I'll bear and they see it, because when parents complain, they come into my office. You know, I'll bring everybody together and I'll talk about it, and they say, okay, sorry, you know, we did this. You know, on behalf of the school, we did this. Sorry, and they realize, okay, they have the school backing.
Yeah.
Right. And the person grow.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're appointed to as a head of department, they always ask me, where's my scope? I say, okay, this is the scope. Then they ask, okay, what else is there? I say, nothing. You just try. You just do, you know, and then you discover for yourself.
Yeah.
Then you grow. I said,
Right.
and they all love that kind of model.
So the gifting that you had sounds like you're able to place people in positions of influence where they feel safe enough to fail, and they know that you have their back.
Yeah.
And they know that they can be creative.
Yes.
And that is a unique gifting that you have.
Yeah. And I discovered it's not that, you know, from the start, I think I have this.
Right.
Yeah, it's on the ground when you practice it.
Yeah.
And we begin to realize that, well, you know, this is what you mean to trust somebody.
Right.
Right? Because, sometimes you may have trusted the wrong guy.
Yes.
That's fine. We all do make mistakes, you know. But you still, it doesn't mean that one mistake you made and therefore you don't try at all, you know, because sometimes a mistake may ruin our perception of things for life, you know, and you say, no, we won't do this totally at all.
Right.
But we must be able to say, okay, we made a mistake, then let's move on. But 10 other things were good, then let's move on, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you didn't know that this was a gifting for you.
Yeah.
It was, what would that feedback or validation come from the results that you see that people grow, or were there teachers that actually went to tell you that, hey, actually you're very different. You're a very different kind of leader.
Yes, I mean they shared with me. That would take a few years later. Yeah, they shared with me and say, oh, you know, we were quite different.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm quite different in the sense that, yeah, you know, you give us space to grow, and I think that's important, giving people the space to grow, right? So that's how then I realized, okay, this is what I'm good at. You know. Yeah.
The special power.
Yeah, special power to empower people. Yeah. I mean, sometimes, you know, we empower, but then we get a big stick behind and we time to whack later on, you know, which is bad. You know, you need to walk the talk that, well, if you empower people, you give them the right to make decisions and you back them up. Yeah.
Last one, when it comes to values, everybody, I feel that if they are living out their passion, something that probably even God has called you to, there's a certain value that you have that you are living out. Yeah. Right. For me, it's the value of adventure. I want to be able to explore different things. Discovery is a big value for me, and that's why I did 32 different jobs, right, in my life, because I'm discovering things with busking on the streets of Orchard Road, trying to be an insurance agent, doing different things. But it's a very big part of me, and that's where I live out my values. For you, in this role as a teacher, as a principal, as an educator, what value do you feel that you're living up?
Well, basically follow Christ. Yeah. I mean, my faith is Christian faith. Yeah.
Right.
So obviously I would like to be that model for Christ.
Right.
Yeah. So when I go through difficult periods, I reflect that, my Lord went through the difficult periods too. Yeah. Right. When I had hope for others, I would also think that, well, Christ also had hope for others. Yeah. So these are the things that, well, Christ is the model that I'm looking at. And these are things, his values are my values too. And this is what makes me to move on. Right? Even if there's difficult period in my time, even as a principal or as a teacher, there are difficult times also. It's not that everything is cushy, you know. And you learn to accept things, you learn to be humble, you learn to think through and say, you know, there are worse things that my Lord has went through than me. What is this? This is nothing. Right? You learn to look ahead, you learn to trust that there's a greater person behind you, and he's moving you. And you learn to see that doors are open. Certain windows are closed, but certain doors open. You go into it and you move on with it. Right.
I do see a little bit of the correlation when it comes to your gifting. It sounds like you personally can mess up, but there's always grace.
Yes.
Right? And the grace comes from Christ, for example.
Yes.
Right? And like he's gracious, you are also gracious. Right?
Yes. I think it's important that everyone understands his position, where he is in terms of, the family, in terms of the place of work, in terms of the greater world.
Yeah.
We are just a very small being, right, in this whole complex of life. And it's important to understand that, well, many a times we fail, many a times we don't have the success, but, well, we forgive, we give others the opportunity, and others will also give you the opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's grace, to be able to pick up the pieces and say, well, let's move on.
Yeah. A few last questions.
Yeah.
When it comes to people who are listening to this or even viewing this, and they are at the road in their life where they do have passions, but they're not sure what to do with it, and whether or not they should just go with the majority where I just get a job and I just get salary, and there's nothing wrong with that. But then there's a group that actually do want to actually explore that passion. In your role as an educator, as a person who kind of like has sees potential in so many people and all that, what is your view of people following their passion?
I think in whatever you do, I always say to people, I mean, when I interview Indonesian teachers, they come to see me and they will describe, how much they can do for the school, or how much they can do in their work.
Right.
And I always say, I need more people than just doing the job. Okay, I say this all honesty. I said, I need people who can look at things beyond just to get the salary or the food on the table. I say, understand that you need food on the table for your family.
Yeah.
All right, but you need to ask yourself, what is your purpose, and what's your how the job will give you the purpose as well as meaning. Right, in life. If you can resolve these two issues about your purpose in doing this, your what meaning do you have for you as a person, then you'll probably be able to pursue much further. Right. So in any bottom thing that you do, what's the purpose and what meaning is it? Okay. For me, obviously, my purpose is driven by my faith. Because I want to reach out to many people. I want to make an impact on the lives of others. What meaning does it have for me? It has a lot of meaning, because I'm able to see someone being saved or someone being helped. And to me, that's greater satisfaction. Right. So I think each of us has to examine, when you go into a line or a job or whatever, what is your purpose, in doing the job, so that will drive you further. And what meaning does it have that will sustain you even further?
If you were going to lead somebody, and you are trying to influence somebody, it could be a student who's Sec 1 at 206. It could be a teacher. What is one thing that you feel that's extremely important to be able to influence that person?
Okay, there are many aspects, but I think one aspect is basically walk humbly, all right? And always seek to do things for the benefit of others. Okay, I think that's important. Right? Walk humbly, because sometimes we stumble because we ourselves become, too high up, too highly of ourselves, and think highly of ourselves. And every time we falter. So walk humbly, right? And move on in life to see how much you can be an influence and impact to others.
Thank you. Thank you. So we've come to the end of the podcast. I thank you so much for this. It's a very special, magical moment for me. You've impacted my life so much. A lot of the things I do in leadership training, coaching, does emulate the things that you do where you are on the ground. And there's always that, it's almost that the idea that there is that judge that you are, but also you are that brother, friend, father figure. And it's both that yin and that yang that's so important when it comes to leading other people. But I do feel that a lot of times that judge doesn't come out, and that brother, father figure does come out more. So that's something that I always take for me. And I really appreciate you changing my life.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you.